Let's talk menopause. I'm Sheila Ray Gregoire from BareMarriage.com, where we like to talk about healthy, evidence-based biblical advice for your sex life and your marriage. And one of the questions that I get so often from women is, let's talk about perimenopause. Let's talk about menopause, because what the heck is going on? And so I invited three of my favorite people onto this podcast today to talk about that. And we're going to get to them in just a minute. Before we do that, here's something you're going to do for me right now. If you love Bare Marriage and if you love listening to our podcast, wherever you listen to this, will you please rate it 5 stars or tell other people about it? Even take a minute and share the podcast that you're listening to, because chances are there's other people who need to hear about menopause too, as well as all the other wonderful things that we talk about. And remember, you can get extras if you join our Patreon. For just $5 a month, you get access to our Facebook group, our exclusive Facebook group, where we like to talk about all kinds of stuff. And where often it's my patrons who give me ideas for podcasts or fodder for some of the Fixed It For Yous that I do. So that's a great place to find community. And they also get some extra unfiltered things too. So check us out at patreon.com/baremarriage. And now, without further ado, here's our interview with my friends. Okay, this is the interview everybody has been asking for, is for us to talk about menopause. And I have three of my very good friends from different stages of my life here that I want to introduce to you. I have Kalita Haberland and Rosemary Flayton, who I met, we've been trying to figure this out, back in 2008, maybe, when we spoke at the Girls' Night Outs across Canada. And then I have Dr. Mary Lynn, who's a psychologist who has been on the podcast before, and we are all going to talk about our experiences with menopause. So first, ladies, will you introduce yourselves? Kalita, go ahead. Who are you?
Hi, nice to see you, Sheila, and you other ladies. My name's Kalita Haberland. I'm a singer, songwriter, speaker, comedian, and author, and I make my home now in the Puerto Vallarta, Mexico area.
Nice. Oh,
I'm so jealous.
I know. Why are we still here in the cold? Well, it's hot now, but
It's hot now.
Rosemary, what about you?
So I'm a Canadian, but now living in Arkansas. I'm the executive director of a Center for Healthy Relationships. So we provide resources for relationships, whether that's marriage or college students. And I actually have Sheila to thank for this job, as in you posted the posting for this, and because it's, the posting had Sheila Gregoire on, that she was passing it on, I took a second look at it, and here we are now living in Arkansas for the last 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I heard about the job. They approached me about it, and I'm like, I like what I'm doing, but I really wanted to make sure someone healthy got the job. So I'm so glad you're there, Rosemary.
Thank you.
And then Mary Lynn, you were on our podcast a year ago with your book Rebecoming, which I love. We live in the same city, and you go to Rebecca's church. Yeah.
Yes. So we're newer friends, although again, back to dating, we dated. We did speak at some conferences together, but didn't really have a chance to chit chat. But yes, as Sheila mentioned, I'm a psychologist and have been practicing for over 30 years. I was just doing the math, a little bit scary. And I live in the county. So I'm a Canadian living in Canada. Yay.
Yeah. So I've been asked to talk about menopause, and I thought, oh my goodness, that is such a huge topic. But I thought, why don't I just get three friends together with me and we can just chat and tell people what to expect now that we're all on the other side of it. So ladies, when did you first notice that things were changing?
Oh gosh. I'll go first because I went into perimenopause early. I was probably in my late 30s, maybe early 40s. So, of course, I had no idea what was going on. Hot flashes, waking up drenched in sweat. And I thought, there's something wrong with me because that's not normal, right? So I went to see a medical specialist, and it turns out I was in burnout. And apparently, from what I was told, the hormones that produce cortisol and stress hormones and all that are impacted by our female hormones. So because I was like really intensely under stress and I was really using a lot of my adrenals, it impacted my female hormones. So all sorts of wonky things started to happen that made me feel like I was aging before my time. So that was my experience of it. the good thing about having gone into it earlier was that because it was so unusual, I really sought out some help to try to get that under control because
Mm.
there's no way I was going to go into 20 years of perimenopause and menopause. And, lifestyle changes I had to do. I big time had to learn to deal with my stress. That was a big thing. My medical practitioner, she was like, I can help you with all the other stuff, but if you keep pumping in stress, nothing's gonna work.
Mm.
So that was really, really significant part of my journey. So I'll kind of start with that, and I'll let the other ladies speak about
Yeah.
their entry into this
Yeah.
wonderful season of life.
Right. I was actually on a missions trip to Cambodia.
Oh,
And it was very hot, oppressively hot. The humidity was over the top. And all of a sudden, I started getting these heat surges. And I'm like, what the heck is happening to me? And it was like I was starting to count them, and I'd get 14, 15 a day. And finally, after being there for 3 weeks, I figured it out. It's like, oh, I'm getting hot flashes. So I think what happened was being in a hot climate and being in a foreign country and just the stress of that, that is where my hot flashes started. And that was horrific and very made the trip not so
oh.
pleasant.
Do you remember how
So
old you were? Do
oh gosh. Okay, are you guys good at math? Because I'm
you-
terrible. My son is now 32, and I think he was 13. So,
So 20 years ago,
Roughly
about.
20 years ago.
okay, so I was 47 or
Mm,
47. Yeah,
yeah.
when that all started. I mean, I had mood swings and stuff like that before, but no real physical um, issues until those hot flashes started coming. So that
Oh,
was,
oh, it's raining for the first time in 9 weeks. It's raining. I'm sorry. I'm so excited.
I
Sorry.
know, we need the rain.
Yeah. You know what one of the hardest parts of my job is? Just the impact on your faith. When we started looking into all the toxic teachings in evangelicalism and sex and marriage, I was left thinking, how could people who read the Bible do such harm and not seem to care? Like, how could God let his word be misused like that? And it really did cause me a lot of consternation for a couple of years. Well, when I read Zach Lambert's book, Better Ways to Read the Bible, it was just so comforting because it showed me that the problem was not the Bible. The problem was the assumptions and the lenses that we have often read the Bible through. And, Zach shows the four harmful lenses, but also the four healthy lenses. And I especially love the Jesus lens. So if you haven't read Better Ways to Read the Bible yet, please get it. It's just out with Baker Books, and the link for it is in the podcast notes. I actually have a similar story to Mary. So maybe I'll jump in that I was fairly young when things started to change, but I didn't it was mostly due to stress, and I
Mhm.
didn't realize that stuff wasn't normal. Like
Mm.
I always thought as you go into your 40s and into menopause, things just start getting worse, like everything starts breaking. So, my periods actually started getting really, really heavy.
Mm.
And it was gradual, right? So you don't realize how out of control it's getting until, I got to the point where I couldn't leave the house on my first day of my period, or I would bleed through. And I just thought, oh, this
Mm.
is just what happens as you
Yeah.
go through your 40s. And I have a friend who's a family doctor, and I was joking to her one day about having to sleep on a towel.
Oh
And she looks at
gosh.
me and she goes, that's not normal, right? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that's not normal. And
Mm.
I had a total breakdown because I was so anemic.
Mm,
Wow.
And I was speaking a ton. It was actually when I was with you girls, I think, like we were speaking a ton across Canada. I was doing so much traveling, and I just had I had a breakdown one day after I came home because I was so tired. And I went to see my doctor, and I just had fibroids, but I didn't know that wasn't normal. Like I didn't, and so I had a uterine ablation when I was, I think, 42 or 43, which they do now instead of hysterectomies, which is great. They just stick something up there and burn you, I guess. I don't know. I was asleep. But it worked great. And then, yeah, all the bleeding stopped and my periods were really light until I hit menopause after that. But again, I just didn't know that as things got worse, that you were allowed to see a doctor about it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, because you think menopause is typically late 40s, early 50s,
Yeah.
and it
Mm-hmm.
just happens, your body's falling apart and it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fascinating because research around female health is not great, and most physicians aren't taught. They may get an hour of training on menopause.
Yeah.
So, and I have a male doctor on top of that. So, this is not something that he had personal experience with. So, I wasn't really getting the guidance along. But it's the same thing as you, Sheila. I think it was the event I was speaking at. I was standing up there, and then all of a sudden, gush, like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
luckily I was wearing black pants. I had
Mm-hmm.
about 6 pads on,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
still went right through. And then I went and changed, went back up to speak, another gush. I thought this is not normal. And
Mm-hmm.
ended up having to see a OBGYN, and she says, "Oh, you've got polyps." And so the blood
Oh.
accumulates there, bleeding heavy. So I had to go for surgery, DNC and ablation as well. And she came
Yeah.
out, she says, "Oh my gosh, you have polyps like this big, like 12 of them." And she was like so joyful of being able to knock this out of me. I go, "Where are they? I want to see one. Keep them in a little jar for me." She said, "Oh, no, no, no. I threw it out." So that
Yeah.
was mine. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. And I should say I think I was 42.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it
yeah.
was probably about that time. And then the doctor said, "You're going to, periods went really light.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just going to take you into menopause." And sure enough, it took me into menopause. It never went heavy again. It was so great.
Yeah, it was. It was wonderful.
Mhm.
What about you, Rosemary?
So I think I know I'm in menopause because I'm having a hard time remembering what it was like.
Oh yeah.
In terms of the memory going. But when I look back, I think late 40s, I was probably starting to get a few hot flashes. There was the cognitive side. I was really stressed about that, but that actually came out of something else. My mom had early onset Alzheimer's, and so late 40s, when I was actually 50, that was about the time that she had started to show signs. So that was probably more of an issue for me
Mm.
than what was happening with my uterus. And I actually went and had a full psychological workup as a benchmark, and that helped alleviate some of that. I didn't know what was normal again, right? We don't talk about this. I thought, is this happening to me because it had happened to my mother? But at that same time, I was starting to get really heavy periods, very, very heavy periods, and ended up having a complete hysterectomy.
Mm.
I had a cyst, a growth the size, they said it was like I was 13 weeks pregnant.
Oh
So
gosh.
I had
Wow.
a complete hysterectomy and opted to go have my ovaries removed. So I was at 52 when that happened. So I went into immediate,
Mm.
Yeah.
full-blown menopause at that stage. And there's a lot. I was actually just reading an article this week in CBC saying, women have a higher incidence of dementia, and it's not just because they're living longer, and that actually our estrogen plays a big part in that.
Mm.
And so a part of my dealing with kind of this immediate onset of full-blown menopause was using an estrogen patch, and that has really helped.
Yeah.
But everybody's story is so different,
Yeah.
right? Like even as we've just
Yeah.
talked here,
Yeah.
all of us are, we've had some medical assistance in dealing with this. I remember my mom, like she would go to bed for 2 days with
Mhm.
migraines, right? And some women
Mm.
have that, and I don't think there's no right path through it. And you look back, oh, I could have done that, or I could have done this. But really, you just do your best with what you have available to you and what you know. But I would just like get as much help as you can through this. It's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
I remember when our first baby was born, that we were in the stage, don't take any medicine, like just do it all natural, right? Up having an epidural, and it was like the best thing to do. And it was just like, you go with what you can at the moment, given
Mhm.
Yeah.
what your reality is.
Yeah. Okay, here, I want to come back to the hormones in a sec, but I actually want to talk about what you said about the mental stuff because my dad had early onset Alzheimer's as well.
Mm.
That.
And yeah, and he passed away in his early 70s, but he had it like since early 60,
Yeah.
around 60.
Wow.
Um, and so when I have had a few mental things and it has made me worried,
Yeah.
but so probably I should go get a baseline as well. Um, but the weird thing is I lose words. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Mm-hmm.
always think of words and my spelling every now and then I spell a word wrong and I have had perfect spelling. Like I used to win spelling. I have had perfect spelling for as long as I can think. Like it's a big thing for me. I love spelling. And every now and then I can't remember how to spell a word. And it's the weirdest
Yeah.
thing.
It's a real thing. That
Mm.
mental fog,
Is.
word finding
Yeah.
is one of the biggest ones that I have. And I speak. I mean, you speak.
Hmm.
All of us
Mm-hmm.
speak. And
Yeah.
I write. And so I'm there with a client and I'm trying to express a word and it's something super basic and I just can't come up with the word. And it's so, and then I beat myself up and then I worry, is there something wrong with me? But the more and more I talk to other women who have gone through menopause, that brain fog, hard time
Mm-hmm.
finding words seems to be so
Mm-hmm.
common. And I think for women who are high achievers or have done well or yeah, like using their brain is just a natural thing. And so you don't
Yeah.
think about what happens if it starts to kind of fail you. And then you do worry, is there something wrong with me?
Right.
Um, so I might not have the same breadth of vocabulary, or at least immediately, but hopefully you have better wisdom. That's the hope.
I
Yeah.
just I just finished getting my doctorate, and I was part of what almost held me back. It was a hump that I had to get over was this, am I going to be able to remember all the things that I need to remember, especially in
Yes.
my defense, like doing the defense of my dissertation? Am I going to be able to remember, who wrote this and what article is attached to that? Because that's part of what, and I had to work really hard on
Mm,
that. But I also had to realize that fear was actually
mm,
hindering my capacity to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just literally, what, I can't remember who that was. Or, I'll make a statement like, oh, the nouns are always the first to go. Like there's an
Yeah.
element of,
Right.
you know what, I am who I am. And yeah, please still pass my dissertation. I did. I managed to achieve it. It
yay.
was concerning at this stage of life, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Something
Yeah.
that
gosh.
maybe not all of you could relate to, but maybe some of those of us who speak. I don't know if you find that your voice is changing.
Mm.
Ah.
Mhm.
Because as a singer, I've
Yeah.
sung my
Mhm.
whole life. It's a gift. I've done it all in the singing area. And now I have to really change how I sing the songs that I've been singing for a long time. Like my voice has become lower. And so I don't
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
don't have the same range, the same
Mm.
capabilities. So that has
Yeah.
been, you know, as I'm sitting listening to you, like there are parts of us that we have to realize that they're going to evolve and change. But then with what comes with that is a bit of grief, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
Grieving,
yeah.
grieving that memory
Yeah.
that we used to have, that word recall, we used to have all of that. What nobody tells us is that really appreciate those really beautiful, good years because when you get
Mhm.
older, some of those things start to fade and we don't really appreciate what we
Mm,
had.
mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
funny, Cleta, you mentioned that. We just had our first grandbaby. So holding this little girl and I have been a musician singer all my life, not professional as you,
Yeah.
singing to her, and I'm hearing my voice and I'm like, it sounds different than the last time I held a baby, 30 years
Mm.
ago. And you're right, I hadn't equated it that it could well be the effect of menopause. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
who
never
knew,
thought of
right?
that either.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember when Anne Murray retired, and I thought, why is she retiring? She's only like, I think she was maybe 65 or 66, around where I've been these last few years. And I thought, she's in good shape. Why is she stopping? And then I thought, well, maybe now that I'm in that
Yeah.
age, I'm thinking maybe that's why, her voice is changing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
So
I
you
will.
mentioned
Sorry.
grieving things.
Yeah.
Are there anything else that you guys have grieved? I know this is a silly one. This is really silly. Okay, but I think a lot of people go through this, but I gained 15 pounds I can't lose.
Mm.
You know, and
Mhm.
it's only 15 pounds and it doesn't matter. And we shouldn't be putting our worth in what we
Yeah.
look like.
Yeah.
But I think what it made me realize is how much I did put my worth in that,
Mm.
which is something which is pretty much completely genetic for me. Like
Yes.
it's
Mhm.
not, it's not, it's just luck of the lottery, the lottery
Yeah.
genes, right? But when suddenly it's not easy to lose weight anymore, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
That's a big one. Like
Yeah.
where I live, there's a lot of younger women that are going into their 50s, and that is the biggest thing I would say that women struggle with is that menopause weight that they gain, especially around the middle.
Hmm.
And that they just, no matter what they do, and I know I've got a friend, she's a women's health expert, and she's now starting to go through it. And, you know, it's just part of that change. And I think there's some times where no matter what we do, diet, exercise, that it's not moving. And we have
Mhm.
to, like you said, accept that. And we have to, we have our mothers, we can look back and see how did they look, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, what it's made me do is like, you know what? I'm not trying to lose weight anymore. I just want to be strong. I've never been
Yeah.
strong my whole life. And so
Mhm.
my goal is I want to be able to do 2 push-ups by Christmas, just 2 push-ups. So I'm really trying.
That's
All
I'm
a
right,
really
good
we'll be
goal.
trying.
cheering you on.
Yeah. But yeah, I just want to feel strong. And I feel like if I
Yeah.
don't do it now, it's only
Yeah.
going to get harder, right? So,
And that's what we hear a lot about is keeping our bones strong. When we
Yes.
get
mhm.
when we get to this age, because we deteriorate our bones, we lose a lot. And so
Mhm.
that is one of the most important things is keep moving and do small weights. Even if you have a set around the house and you don't belong to a gym, at
Yeah.
least, start lifting those.
Yeah.
I've been giving this some thought, Sheila, your question about the grieving as we go
Mm,
through changes. And for me, because my living requires me to use my brain a lot, and also as somebody who's generally creative thinker, entrepreneur, all of those things. So I've been finding that my fluid reasoning skills, which is my ability to think outside the box and be
mm,
innovative and have the energy to kind of start up new ideas, seems to have really lessened.
mm,
And I do know that for women who are older, our crystallized reasoning is stronger. We have much more historical insight and memories. And so with that comes wisdom. But
mm.
see, I like being called wise, but then it also feels like that's an old word that you use for
Yes.
aging people.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I do miss how fast my mind used to go boom, 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 and I'd have all these ideas and then I'd actually be able to do it. Now it's like I have an
Mhm.
idea and it's like, what was that idea again? And
Right.
then, you know what? Frankly, I don't have the energy for it. So,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. And so for me,
Yeah.
I have some fears as my mind I'm finding is shifting. My dad had dementia, although he didn't have it till late in life, but I fear that the thing that sort of maybe is part of my identity, but it is certainly part of what I do for a living is a thing that I'm starting to lose. And so
Mm,
that's the thing I would say. But at the other side of the coin, I would say there's also a growing sense of, well, maybe that's a season of life and it's
yeah.
okay to
Mhm.
just kind of gracefully move into that and not try
Mhm.
so hard to be that young person that I was before because it's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
huge one.
Yeah.
What you've touched on, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
let's just go over for listeners who may not know what menopause actually is in brief. So, first of all, what age? So you're officially in menopause when you haven't had a period for 12 consecutive months.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, for me, I was pretty young. Like I was 48.
Wow.
Which I know is really young. What about the rest of you?
I was 50.
Yeah. And then Rosemary, you said you were 52
Yeah, I
because of the
was
surgery.
52 and I had the equipment removed.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, see, this is my menopause. I don't remember. Uh, but it was definitely early 50s. It just
Mhm.
stopped. And I was fortunate because a lot of women, it stops and starts. And so it's like, I hit menopause.
Mhm.
Oh, no, I didn't. I hit menopause. Oh, no.
Oh
So
yeah.
mine, it
Yeah.
just literally just one day it stopped and then it didn't, never came back. And it was early 50s. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when it started happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really, but I started my period so young. I kind of feel like I owed,
Mhm.
like, that was
Yeah,
my,
exactly. Yeah.
How
you
old
know,
were you?
when I started my period, I was like almost 11. So,
Oh
Wow.
wow,
I was, yeah, I was really
that
young.
is young.
So, yeah. But I know kids are younger now, but for then
Yeah.
I was like the youngest by like 2 years of all my friends, you know. But
Hmm.
anyway, so what have been and then once you go through menopause, your hormone levels change, you know, estrogen really decreases, and we don't realize all the things estrogen is responsible
Hmm.
for,
Right.
like bone health. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
osteoporosis is really common after
Hmm.
menopause, heart health. So we're in greater risk of heart problems.
Yeah.
Um, Estrogen also regulates a lot of sexual function, which we'll get to in a minute, but you can find a lot of differences, especially with lubrication, because estrogen really regulates the blood flow to the genital area. And so it's the
Hmm.
weirdest thing because you can feel mentally and physically aroused without being lubricated at all.
Mm.
You know, and it can cause the vagina to atrophy where the muscles just aren't as strong, and they and the lining for the vagina can get really thin and brittle, and it can start to things can just start to sting.
Right.
So keeping things moist is always a good idea, and maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, but that's something that a lot of people notice. And then there's all the hot flashes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I know my husband once explained the medical reason for the hot flashes. Does anyone know the medical reason? It's
No,
like
it just
estrogen.
No.
sucks.
Yeah, it's like because you don't have constant, like you don't have this constant hormones, it'll be really low, and then all of a sudden you'll get a surge of estrogen, and something will happen. Anyway, I
Mm.
don't know, but it's like a surge of hormones, and you just like, what does a hot flash feel to all of you? What do you go through?
I haven't had one in a very long time, but it's like this, just this inner burning inside of me that kind of is there, and I can't explain
Mhm.
it because the temperature outside is fine. I want to take off all my clothes.
Yeah,
And even if I was completely naked, I'd still feel hot because it feels like it comes from inside.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of
I always
the
feel it worse on my neck. Like my neck gets really
Mm.
hot first, and I went through years where I couldn't wear any of my hand knit sweaters. Like I would every day I would be in a t-shirt and then a cardigan or a blazer. Like everything was layers. Like my my entire
Yeah.
wardrobe went to layers for about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel it on my head. Like it's
Yeah.
like the
Hmm.
from the pores of my hair out is coming heat. Like it's
Yeah,
just, and you know, you put your hand here and it goes, oh man, my head is hot.
Mm.
yeah,
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I
I
would
mean, I
say
feel it elsewhere too, but that's, yeah.
mine
I think
starts
you
in
can
my
actually
face
see
too.
heat rising from your body.
have you seen those? Have you seen those videos
Yes,
like on TikTok
yes,
of women outside in the
yes.
cold, like at a football game or
They're
something, and
steaming.
steam is rising from their head?
I don't doubt it. And there's that, I forget how somebody, heard somebody describe it, but it's kind of like the one leg outside the blanket, right?
Oh
Like we
yeah.
get really good at
Oh,
whichever it's the
totally.
right or left is always outside
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
That's so
My
annoying.
husband and I was always had a queen bed, but we've been talking about getting a king because just him being close
Yeah.
Yeah.
is is too much sometimes, right? Like I just need he's hot. I mean he is,
Yeah.
but no, you know what I mean. He's body
Okay,
heat.
now we're going to talk about sex.
Yeah.
And
I know
my
we got a bigger bed too. We got a bigger bed too. Yeah.
Yeah.
and my husband has complained over the years, and he still does, that I'm so hot he can't be near me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like sizzles, right?
Any of you have insomnia too? Like
Oh
I was getting it
gosh.
Oh
where
yes, I
Yes.
do.
wake up in the middle
Oh,
of the night and can't get back to
Yeah.
sleep.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
another topic surrounding all of this that a lot of women don't talk about and don't realize is that when our bladders are beginning to leak,
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
that's all part of the
Mhm.
lack of hormones. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of us think, oh, you know, it's just because I've had X amount of babies or whatever. But from the some of the reading that I've done over the years is that it's,
Mm.
I don't know which, it's the lack of estrogen or progesterone, but
Mm-hmm.
that can be huge in so many of us. And as a singer, I first started experiencing that if I was on stage and I was singing a song that
I
had
know.
a lot of power in it, all of a sudden I'd be hitting these high notes and it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Or laughing. I just naturally, every time I knew I was having a good laugh, I'd cross my legs before that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys experienced that?
That
Yeah, I
that
think
wasn't
I've
the
heard a
problem for
lot of
me.
women do. I
Yeah,
went through a lot of pelvic floor physiotherapy and
Right.
exercises, which I think have really helped for other
Totally.
issues. But
Yeah.
yeah.
and that's a really good point, Sheila. I think women at any stage, pelvic floor
Mhm.
physiotherapy was huge. I went shortly after my hysterectomy, and just it was a really great awareness of our body, which we often don't get, especially as younger women, or we
Yeah.
didn't in our generation, anyways. So yeah, that was a great
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really key, I think, the
yeah,
pelvic floor exercises.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for me, one of the gifts of going through early perimenopause and because I was in the height of my career, raising kids and all that, was that it forced me to look at my body because this is the problem for a lot of women is they just have been taught to endure. And so you
Mhm.
put up with it and you think that's just normal part of aging and you feel like you can't do anything about it, but you can. And so I
Hmm.
think one of the advantages for me having gone into it earlier was that, no way. I can't
Hmm.
live like this for this long. And so I
Hmm.
did seek help and I found helpful to have some support around my hormones and especially support around my stress as well. But in doing the support around my hormonal health, a lot of these symptoms actually dissipated. So I haven't had some of the things that you've been describing, but that's because I kind of got an early handle on it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think for the
Good.
women, depending what age or stage, I mean, if you're already well into it, there's still things that you can do to be better. But when you're younger, there are things that you can do to help. Like you said, the pelvic floor exercises can be phenomenal to help with that
Hmm.
little leaking that happens, and just dealing
Yeah.
with your stress can be
Yeah.
part of it. And
And prolapses too, which is really
oh,
common. Like
yes.
when organs start to fall down
Yes,
through the
like everything
vagina. Like,
does.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing that really sold me, though, to be honest, because that's vanity, I was seeing a naturopath and she says, if we get a handle on your estrogen, it's going to slow down your aging within 5 years of menopause. I thought, well, I don't mind slowing down my aging.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's genetics because Asians, we kind of look young, like we look like a teenager until all of a sudden we look ancient and we're like, ah. So I could be in that stage, but so I feel like uh, while I think it's important to be honest about all the struggles it is and to pay attention to it earlier and get some help, that also there's some really positive things about that as you work through the grieving in the morning and the changes and the
Mm-hmm.
processing that it
Hmm.
in some ways forces us to process things that maybe we would
Hmm.
just ignore. And
Yeah.
if we're able to do it, there can be some really great things that come out of this
I
season.
think so too. And that's where I want to land at the end, but I have a few more things to say. I
Okay,
want to
sure,
tell
sure.
my story about how I got on hormones, which I waited way too long.
Yeah.
Um, and I had the weirdest menopause symptom that I haven't heard anyone else have, but it was horrible. It was dry eyes.
Mm,
Oh.
Because you lose lubrication in all kinds of areas of your body,
mm.
including
Hmm.
your eyes. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't struggle with this, but I did. And
I do.
I was on these drops, and I was allergic to the drops, so I had to
Oh
get
no.
non-preservative drops, and it wouldn't help. I'd be taking these things like 15 times a day. They went everywhere with me, and
Mm.
my eyes were so uncomfortable I could barely sleep, and I thought I was going to lose my mind. And I was seeing optometrists. I was taking all kinds of different supplements, and nothing was working. And that is what made me say to my doctor, I think I need to go on hormones because I was avoiding it for a long time because my mom had breast cancer when she was very young. And, I thought maybe there's an elevated risk. There's been a recent study that shows that there's not. So I had a good talk with my doctor and we decided that the risks of osteoporosis and heart disease are actually
Mm,
worse than the risks of breast
mhm.
cancer for me. And if I'm going through this where I'm not sleeping, that's bad. And I went on a
Mhm.
super low dose and my entire life changed.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like I need drops maybe once every other day, maybe,
Yeah.
Wow.
you know?
I had dry eyes too, Sheila. So I feel your pain. It's not fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And
no one
especially when
tells
you're
you about that.
no, and
Yeah.
especially when you're working on the computer and makes it
Yeah,
worse. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I have dry eyes and I hadn't equated that. So that's a really, thank you for sharing that. There's probably a lot more of us than just have never put the two and two together.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was actually someone at the supplement store that said, you probably, instead of taking stuff directly for your eyes, you should probably take stuff more for estrogen because it's probably
Mm.
related to menopause. I'm like,
Mm.
oh my goodness, I never thought of
Wow.
that. So yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I do regret. Like, I think I could have saved a lot of years of hot flashes if I had gone
Mhm.
on a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I know I know some women who are way older than me and they're still getting hot flashes. And I'm like, why aren't you doing something for that? Because
yeah.
I think there's a lot of fear out there around it.
I kept remembering this conversation like over the last 5, 10 years. This conversation has come back to me many times that I had with Kalita probably 15 years ago. Um, when we were still doing Girls Night Out, where you sat me down and you said, "Oh my goodness, I went on bioidentical hormones and my life is so much better now. My libido is back. My like everything is so much better.
Yeah.
You gotta do it."
It really helped me for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. No,
Definitely.
it helped me a lot too. I'm a true believer. Not to be pushing it for people who are uncomfortable or they might have
Mhm,
some medical reasons why they couldn't, but in general, the
mhm,
large majority of women I speak to who have gone on bioidentical, which is just easier to absorb,
mhm,
a bit more natural ways of doing the hormone therapy, just have had helps with sleep, with the
Yeah.
cognitive fog, with the uh,
mhm.
I'll call it chap lips.
Mm.
Yeah.
Not down up here, but down there.
Yeah.
And definitely with the hot flashes. So I haven't really
Mhm.
struggled with that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other things people can do too.
Hmm.
And this is not meant as a medical podcast. So please talk to your doctor, healthcare provider, whatever. There's so many different things, and so much depends on your medical history and your family history, et cetera, et cetera. But, for sex and lubrication issues, there's also estrogen cream you can take
Hmm.
directly in the genital area. There's suppositories, vitamin E suppositories can work amazing for lubricating the vagina so that it stays supple. Um, lots and lots of things that you can do. So just talk to your doctor and medical provider. But let's talk about sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk. I know Mary, before we
Mary's
hit
just dying
record,
to
Mary's
talk
like, I want
about
to
No,
talk
sex.
about
it's just,
sex.
well, I mean, I thought I didn't even think about menopause. And then I never had a problem with lubrication. And even when I started perimenopause, it wasn't an issue. But just one day, I was like, ouch, when
Yeah.
my husband and I were having intercourse. And so I'm telling my sister about it. She goes, oh, yeah, it's chapped lips. And she talked about how it gets drier down there and it's more painful. I'm like, but that's never happened to me before.
Mm,
So for me, having a vibrant sexual life is still an important part of my marriage. So I got to do something about it.
mhm,
And like you said, there are creams and lubricants, and I tried them all. And my body is sensitive, and so there's certain ones that I got a little itchy and everything. But all in all, to say that there's no reason why you can't continue. And in
mhm,
fact, in some ways, I would say our sex life is better because you don't have that same, oh, it should be this way or that way, but it's almost like a slowing down and exploring now that my body has changed. What is actually good for me? What is bad for
Mhm.
me? What causes me pain? And I'm more quick to articulate that and actually guide my husband. Whereas in the past, I'd be like, whatever, it is what it is. And now
mhm.
I'm so much more aware of my body and what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And I feel like we've had a lot more honest conversations as a result. And maybe that's part of maturing. But
Yeah.
it's also part of explaining. I would say, though, that with the hormonal changes, my sexual drive dropped big time. And to the
Mhm.
point where I'd be like, yeah, I could go without having sex. I'd be okay with that. But then that I was still too young to say that is not fair to my husband and not fair to me. And so it was worth investigating, not just the
Mhm.
chap lip aspect, but the I was even like, should I go on like testosterone? Is that gonna make me grow hair? But also I'm gonna have more of a sex drive. And my doctor was like, no, 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 you don't need that. And it is with a series of different lubricants, estradiol, which is something that you use
Right.
inside your body, estrogen cream, and a
Mhm.
lot of really good conversations. It's been great. And I'll stop there because there's other things I could say about it, but I want to give a chance for other women to speak.
I think what I've noticed is just we have actually, although it's we've been married for just had our 40th anniversary. So we've been married a long time, and our sex life has always been a really important part of our marriage. But we're actually having to work at it harder now,
Hmm.
Mhm.
as in be much more intentional about setting aside the time. So, I mean, Sheila, you've been a great advocate of this, that sex is more than just the body. It includes both
Mhm.
body, mind, right? Like it's the
Mhm.
whole person really comes. And although the body may be a little slower to respond, you can actually stimulate that through conversation and through touch. And
Mhm.
there's other ways than just, he
Hmm. Hmm.
arrives at home and you're ready to tear each other's clothes off. Like
Hmm.
Yeah.
there is ways to continue to build that. And like you, Mary, it's a really important part, I believe, of a marriage. And there's marriages out there that for any number of reasons they may not have as much sex as they did or whatever. That's again, I'm not here to say it needs to happen a certain number of times a week. Not that at all. But I do know that it is an important part of our intimacy and what
Hmm.
that looks like. And that as a result of menopause, we've actually had to be more intentional, more work harder at it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's good, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
is. I think it is. I know what you mean though, like that feeling of wanting to tear each other's clothes off. That has largely gone away for me,
Hmm.
honestly.
Hmm.
Like I just don't get those hormone surges anymore. But that doesn't mean that I don't really enjoy sex still,
Hmm.
Yes.
or don't want to connect. I think it's kind of gone from like being super hot to more just being
Hot.
loving and yeah,
Loving.
hot
Yeah.
another way, but more
Yeah.
just like being loving
Yeah.
and fun and
Yeah.
relaxing. Maybe
Yeah.
relaxing is the
I
best
think
word.
that's
I don't
a
know.
good
Yeah.
way. I think when your body is not behaving the way it should, you either have to have a really great sense of humor about it and be
Hmm.
Yeah.
relaxed about it and see if there's
Yeah.
something you can do, or you get more uptight and it gets more painful, it gets more difficult, and you just give up. And I
Yeah.
wonder if menopause sometimes accentuates
Mm.
problems that people have had in their sex life already, but they were able to ignore because the
Hmm.
body could just overcome it. But when you get to this stage, like you said, Rosemary, we have to work harder at it. I don't
Definitely.
naturally feel like, oh gosh, he's so hot, I'm just going to jump his bones. We actually have scheduled times because that means that we're preparing our minds and our bodies and just this time of connection
Hmm.
so that when we do, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And there isn't, we also give ourselves permission that it doesn't have to be this way or that way. And sometimes if it's not happening for me, it's not happening for me. It's okay.
Hmm.
Other times, one thing I've noticed, and I don't know if it's the same case for you, other women, but I have noticed, I don't know if I'm going to get too graphic with this, but um, my capacity to have multiple orgasms has increased. It's
Yes.
harder to get
Yes.
going. But once I'm there, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. And my husband's like, this is not fair.
Yeah. One of the stats that we share all of the time on this podcast is our orgasm gap, that 95% of men report almost always or always reaching orgasm in a given sexual encounter, compared to just 48% of evangelical women. Well, what if you're in that 52%? Or what if you're in like the 12% who never orgasms at all? We want to help. And I know that's weird, but we created a course to help you learn how to reach orgasm.
based in modern, peer-reviewed research and not just on one pastor's opinion, like so many of these resources you've been given before. In the Orgasm course, you will find many practical applications to common problems that women face when it comes to sexual pleasure.
Because the thing to remember is that a lot of those people that are in the 48% who do almost always or always reach orgasm were once in the 12%. And you can get to the 48% too. There's also a husband's course that goes along with it to help both of you together figure this out. So please take a look at the Orgasm course. The link is in the podcast notes. I didn't know. I thought that was just me. Okay, that's interesting.
So I asked a sex therapist this a few years back because I said, there's this weird thing that's happening and I'm getting multiples. And she's, oh, no. It's actually common. And it's common for women in menopause. But because I had that happening in the back of my head, because I could stop at any point. I'm good to go. I had my one. Okay, finish already. But then when I realized that actually I can keep it going, I'm like, well, I might as well.
Might as well.
I might as well. I might as well.
I don't have anything else to do tonight.
Yeah, you know what? I'll have a few more. When I realized that can be a one of the gifts of menopause. And I don't know if it's because I'm more relaxed. I don't know if it's because I know my body more. My husband knows my body more. I don't know what it is, the hormonal change that happens. I'm curious about your experience, Sheila, as to, because again, I kind of was a little wanting to bring it up, but is this normal? Is it not? Just knowing that the sex therapist said that it can be common as part of menopause. And in that conversation, I was with another woman who was in menopause, who also had multiples. And so putting it on the table.
Yeah. What about you, Kalita? I remember talking to you and you were talking about how your libido tanked before you went on hormones like all those years ago.
Oh, yeah, it definitely helped. But it's nice listening to different scenarios here. But, Gordon and I've been married almost 35 years. So we don't have the same kind of sex life that we had. And actually, he is more of the one that has lost his libido, and so it's hard for me to accept that, and that's been part of our journey. And when I was first going through menopause, it increased. I was way more interested than he was, and I felt that maybe there was something wrong with me, that whole thing. And now we're at a place where we're kind of on the same page. My libido has settled back down. His is still pretty much the same. And so when you talk about loving and being in a comfortable place where, you don't have to have intercourse to be intimate. And I would say that the loving part of it, even after all these years, just that kind of intimacy has grown and matured. And I'm now in a place where I don't feel like, oh, I'm missing out, or, what happened. I've come to accept that this is just where we both are and we're comfortable with it. And so my experience is actually different than most of you.
Yeah. But you're happy. That's the big thing.
Yes.
And you got 35 years behind you.
And we're going strong. And he's, he doesn't right now, but I remember maybe some of your husbands too. I mean, he would have hot flashes in the night. He would wake up like soaking half his side of the bed. And so I know that, I don't know if other husbands.
I do think men do go through hormonal changes. We just maybe don't talk about it. They don't talk about it for sure.
Yeah, it's not as I do want to say a couple more things about sexual function, just in talking to so many women. I know for me in my early 40s, there'd be times where we'd be having sex and I was really turned on, and Casey would be like, oh, you're not ready yet. And I'm like, yes, I am. And he's like, no, you're not. And it's like, what do you mean I'm not? but because I had just lost so much lubrication, and we just started buying lubricant at the drugstore, so I don't have any allergies to that. I mean, eye drops in my eyes, I can't handle that, but other stuff I'm fine with. So that was fairly easy, and that's a fairly cheap fix for that. But I just remember feeling like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I rejecting him? Do I not like him?
Is your body telling you something? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, no, this is just me. And so that was important. But I have spoken to a lot of women who say that after menopause they couldn't orgasm anymore. And I was speaking at a marriage conference, and one woman who was teaching said that after menopause it's common not to reach orgasm. And I've spoken to a lot of women who have that same experience, and I've since spoken to a lot of gynecologists and asked about this. And the conclusion that I have come to, which is not scientific, it is after talking to some doctors, but I would love to see a study on this. So this is just Sheila's hypothesis. Okay. So this is the hypothesis I'm throwing out there, but please do not take this as medical word. Is that I think for some women, when orgasm was easy when you first got married, it can become hard after menopause because orgasm was so body focused. Like you didn't have to work it at mindfulness. You didn't have to work at paying attention to your arousal. You didn't have to work at paying attention to your body. Orgasm just kind of happened. Those women often have a difficult time after menopause. But for women who struggled with orgasm, who did have to figure out mindfulness, and we talk about all of this in our orgasm course. I'll put a link to that in the podcast notes. Like, who did have to figure out, how do I reach orgasm? They often don't have an issue as much because they already have worked through a lot of this, So, but to me, that says that if it was super easy for you before and now it's hard, it could just be that you need to learn how to pay attention to your body. And so something like taking the orgasm course might help because you just may never have gone through those things before. If orgasm stops because it was always hard for you and now this is just the final nail in the coffin, then I really would talk to a doctor, about hormones and therapies and stuff. But anyway,
I
that's
like
just
your
my
theory there, Sheila,
theory.
because I would say I'm one of the ones who I get so easily distracted. I'm thinking of laundry lists. Even
Yes.
now, I have to put my phone, my watch, anything that might kind of go off because I'm like, oh, that's the kids. I can't be distracted, and I have had to learn to be very mindful and very focused, and I had to prepare myself so that I would be ready for it. So because I've been doing that work for a long period of time, by this point, it's almost kind of easy. Um, so yeah, I think there's something to that. Of course, this is N of however many women you've spoken to, but I think that would be a fascinating research study.
Yeah, so someone who's a sex therapist, do a study on that.
Yeah,
I would love
do a
to know
study
if
on
I'm
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say it's we've experienced that really having to lean into the skills that we've developed earlier in our marriage has helped us at this stage. And so I guess an encouragement to the younger women out there that just be really attentive. It's kind of some of the patterns, some of the routines that you develop early actually become very fruitful at this time of your life and your marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to change gears now, and I want to talk about how our attitudes change at menopause and how that can be either freeing or can really hurt us depending on which route we take. And to start, I would like to play a video clip from one of my favorite TikTok accounts, just the We Don't Care Club. I don't know how, and so here, I will just play it and let people hear.
Hello and welcome to all new and existing members of the We Do Not Care Club. I started this club for all women going through perimenopause and menopause. We are putting the world on notice that we simply just do not care much anymore. Let's go ahead and get started with today's announcements. We do not care if our boobs hang low and we can tie them in a bow. We do not care if the tag says hand wash. It's getting washed how it's getting washed. It is in the Lord's hands now. We do not care if the family reunion is coming up. If it is still hot outside, FaceTime us so we can speak to everyone. We do not care if smiling makes us look friendly. We're not. We do not care if we pay for a monthly gym membership and we do not go. We do not care if our pedicures and manicures cost $111. We can no longer reach our toes and we can't see up close to paint our fingernails. We do not care if you are a gentle parent. Either make them kids sit down or y'all can go home. We do not care if we lose our phone 13 times a day and keep it on silent. Shut up and help us look for it. We do not care if you have to use the bathroom at our house. Yes, that is our bra behind the door. Please do not touch it as you open the door to exit. That concludes the announcements for today.
I feel like that sometimes. It's like, yeah, I just don't care anymore. I do not care. And it's so freeing not to care.
So
I
freeing.
agree. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I
You
find it-
know, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I find it really interesting that as women, or the culture doesn't really care what age a man is in
Right.
terms of what he can do or can't do and when it's too old. And yet, and some of it, I think as women, we can do this to ourselves, but even as culture, that if you get to a certain age, menopause almost feels like you're done, your usefulness is over. And I think I'd love to reframe that more to that we really are, see this as a freeing time. So we're not, we're not tied to even our periods or other things that we might have experienced. A lot of us have empty nests, and it's just a time to actually go and be. So when I took this job, most of my friends in Calgary where we lived, I think I only had 2 or 3 that either were already retired or were going to be retiring. And they said, why you're taking this, big job, you're moving, like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because I got more trips around the sun left in me. And I feel like, so many of I stayed at home for a number of years. And then we moved for my husband's job. It was kind of like, this is my time. And I think we reframe.
Reframe.
Yeah, what we think menopause can be. It's not a dying off. It's actually could be a time of rebirth for us as women.
Yeah, I think it's time for you to be you, and you've raised the kids, you've done, maybe all the things that have been expected of you. And and it's your time. It's your time even to start doing things that you've been thinking about for 30 years and have never done, and finding those places that are just for you. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
awesome that you've done that and moved there. Good for you.
Yeah, I think what happens too in your early 50s is you just realize if I don't deal with this now, it's never going to get dealt with, and I'm sick of it. Like I'm just sick of it. And even in marriage, like Keith and I have probably done more work on working through like, childhood wounds or things that we haven't really touched like in the last 5 years than we did in the previous 30.
Yeah.
And our marriage was good. It was never, it's not ever that it was bad, but it's like, no, you know what? This stuff is hitting me wrong now. Like, no, I don't need to deal with, like, we don't need to live with this anymore. Let's get it dealt with,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think too, there's a greater, when you lose things or like your weight gain you mentioned, or your face might have a few more wrinkles. There's nothing you can do to change that. You stop holding on to things that when you look back, you think, why did I put so much energy into that? Like, why did I think it was so important? And so you are freed from the things that you used to think are important. And as you get older and you have less time in front of you, you start to really evaluate, like, what do I want my life to stand for? What's the quality of my life going to be like? And so I think people might become more reflective. I mean, there is, the stages of development. We're at the stage of stagnation or generativity. And so stagnation are for people who go, oh my gosh, I can't believe all I lost. I'm so dry. I have so many hot flashes. And they're just stuck in this cycle of all that they lost. And they keep trying to go back, and they can become bitter. Whereas with the generativity, it becomes, I've grieved it, I've let it go, I see growing freedom in it, I like who I am, I don't have to prove myself anymore. And in that becomes this generosity of spirit where you still want to give, you still have a lot to offer, but it's a lot more about offering things that will help the generations that come behind us to really thrive, as opposed to, I don't need the accolades of doing the thing. I can support others to be able to do it. And so I feel like in many ways, I'm more effective. It's just maybe a little bit more behind the scenes because I don't have as much of the need to do that. And I think I have greater wisdom. And since I don't have as much of the energy or the fluid reasoning skills to actually make things happen, I can support those who do it as well. But for me personally, I grew up in a generation, and I think would be similar for some of you, where as a woman from an evangelical background, and for me also as a woman of color, I was raised not really speaking up for myself. And so I think I tolerated a lot. And then you get to the age where, wait a minute, this isn't right. This isn't right. I'm getting angry, but I have the maturity not to be yelling my anger. I have the maturity, hopefully, to just assert and speak clearly and be able to express my opinions and to feel like I can have those healthy boundaries, have those healthy conversations that I need to have, engage in conflict in a healthy way. And I'm seeing success in that, which then reinforces more and more of doing that kind of thing. So I like the stage of life I'm at. I really do. Um,
I love it. Honestly,
yeah,
like I think this is my favorite stage of life because I can truly be me
yeah.
as opposed to worrying about what my kids need or what my husband needs or what, because my husband's work has slowed down too. He has more margins in his life, and now we can just sort of ask ourselves, okay, what do we actually want to do? What's important for us to do now? And you feel a lot of freedom in that. Okay, I have a theory, and I want to see if you can relate to any of this. But when you're younger, you individualize your problems. So you think, this is something that I am going through, that I did something wrong, or my spouse did something wrong, or my kids did something, or whatever. Like this is a problem that is unique to me.
Mm.
But the older you get, the more you see everyone around you having very similar issues, often for very similar reasons.
Mm.
And I think you realize as you get to menopause that there's a sisterhood that we didn't have
Mm.
when we were in our 20s and 30s and individualizing everything. And you start to realize, oh no, wait, this is, this is part of what our society is telling us we need to be. This is part of, and maybe that's why I got so mad at the evangelical church around the time I went through menopause. We used to joke, Joanna and Rebecca and me, that we were three hormonal women doing this work because I was going through menopause, Becca was pregnant, and Joanna was breastfeeding, when we were writing Great Sex Rescue. And it's like, but I do think there's a sisterhood, and I wish there were more songs written by menopausal women, because it feels like sometimes I turn on the radio and I don't relate to any of it because it's all, why doesn't he love me? Or, it's all about falling in love when you're 20. And now it's like, no, the world's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, and I
As you've
think
been talking, sorry, as you've been talking, I've been thinking about some of the older women who, when I was in my 40s, actually spoke into my life. And I, at the time I wasn't thinking that, oh, they're in menopause, but they were. And the advice that they gave me, and sometimes it was a kick in the butt, and sometimes it was a hold my hand. But they really helped lead me, I think, into especially having the courage that's needed at this time of life to keep going, and to find your voice and use it in a way that's just really restorative. I like what you said about, we can either go, kind of bitchy or butchy, but that's actually not what we're called to do, right? Like there is this, how do we help reframe the way culture speaks about it? You think about how is menopause referred to in movies, right? There's usually it's one of those two things that has happened. You're either just really, really ready to give up, or let's actually take it on with grace and truth.
Yeah. I really do think there is just this greater self-acceptance because we are processing more and we are thinking about what's more important. I think, it's interesting. I like your theory. I really do with the individualism and we're kind of absorbed in our own world and our own pain. And as we mature, we realize, wait a minute, this is universal and we have this
Yeah.
sisterhood.
Mhm.
At the same time, I think we also swing to becoming more individual in a healthy way. So I would say in my early years, I was far more codependent in
Mhm.
the way that my sense of identity was rooted in my husband, in my parenting, in my social circle, all of that. And I didn't necessarily have a good sense of who I am apart from all of that. And now I feel this confidence in who I am. I don't need other people to tell me my value. I feel that for myself. I know that from as, God has really showcased that to me.
Mhm.
And whereas in the past, the praise of others, the acceptance of others just drove me so much. So I feel like I'm more of an individual now, but I'm an individual amongst a group of sisters who
Yeah.
likewise feel that same sense of, you know, um, integrity or integration in their sense of self, but yet we can still be collective together. And that just makes it more and more beautiful. And I love the rising voices of women who are
Mhm.
speaking up more, and there's commonality in the themes that we have to say. We're supporting each other. We don't have to be feeling insecure and oh, I can't
Yeah.
support you because it's going to make me look bad. No, I want to support you. I want to support all the women at different stages. So for the women listening who may not be married, who may not have a partner, may not want to have a partner,
Yeah.
may not have all the traditional roles, but can still feel that sense of sisterhood
Mhm.
because of the commonality of our experiences as women.
Mhm. I want to read you this letter that a reader sent in when I was talking about menopause and social media, and I think this and actually I'll read it and then I'll get your feedback. But she says this: I've been thinking about how to use the negative emotions I'm feeling, and just quote, just at a dead emotions aren't negative, but I know what she means. But
Mm,
like emotions aren't bad, right? It's just sometimes we get these feeling of anger, but that could be telling us something. Anyway, to use these negative emotions I'm feeling so strongly since perimenopause started to create needed changes in my life. Like if I find myself in a rage about something, I can either one, believe my anger blindly and just go with it, maybe burn bridges that don't need to be burned. Or two, I can feel guilty that I'm mad and apologize for my overreaction, even though maybe there's years of low grade pent up frustration behind it. Or three, I can listen to the anger and try to figure out what's fueling it because hormones are like gasoline, but there's still that flame from the real issue. And once I
Mhm.
figure out the cause, I can think about how to effectively communicate or change the situation that's bothering me. Honestly, I'm still in the beginning stages of figuring out how to do the third option. But I think we women go through our 20s to 40s and we're taking care of our family and just trying so hard to do that well. But now our kids are growing up. And our parents are getting older, and our role is changing in many areas. And some things, like smoothing everything for everyone, have gotten really old. I want
mm,
someone to make things smooth for me. I'm
Mhm.
tired of running everything, making all the household decisions, having to be the bulldozer that makes everything happen. So I
Mhm.
think without the crazy feelings, I just continue to mask my feelings, even from myself. But now I know change is needed. But I'm not going to let my emotions run wild and make these choices for me. I'm praying for wisdom, another benefit of being a bit older.
Mm.
mhm.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love what she said about the fire and the flame and the thing that causes it. So it's not like we're making up our emotions. It's not that, oh, you're
Mhm.
just having a menopausal moment. They're often legitimate feelings that we have that we've buried for years, or
Yeah.
we kind of dismiss. It's not that important. It's fine.
Mm.
It'll go away. But menopause magnifies it so that you must
Yeah.
do something about it. And it, I
Yeah.
think, brings clarity if it's not just the
Mhm.
cloud of emotions and you've
Yeah.
been in this reactive mode, but as in,
Mm.
okay, what is my
Yeah.
body telling me? What are my emotions telling me? For
Mhm.
sure. I've had some strange, for me, strange, because I'm normally pretty emotionally like level headed because I have to, part of my upbringing and all that stuff. But there's times where I'm shocked at how angry I am or how hurt I am. And in the past, I would have just dismissed it, felt guilty. I shouldn't feel this way. Why, this is not good. But I would actually pay attention to what is actually going on for me. And I would be so surprised at the insight that would emerge. And then it would lead to action of really deep conversations that I would have to have with my partner or my kids or my friends or just with God to just process through it and have greater understanding of what's the root cause and therefore then my response needs to be. So I really appreciate menopause for having done that for me. And I don't think it is just maturity. I think it is the fact that everything kind of gets exaggerated, magnified, and you just got to do something with it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, what has come through is that I finally stood up to the toxic relationships. And whereas before I would have been always the people pleaser, the peacekeeper, peacemaker. And I finally, one particular relationship in my life, which was within my immediate family, I had to put a line in the sand and say, that's it, no more. And that was very empowering. And although it was a loss and there was a grieving about that, it was like I still had to do that for me. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that without, like you said, Mary, like finding that place where you're not going to go back, you're not going to be concerned as much as we were in those younger years, and just really being honest and truthful and accepting of ourselves and finding that self-worth. I mean, you women know that that's the thing that women deal with more than anything is low self-worth. And why is that? Because a lot of times we've been taken advantage of, and we've been the good girls, the good women, the good mothers. So
Yeah.
and the song that goes with that lovely woman's letter is a song that I wrote years ago called The Strong One.
Oh yeah, I know that one. I will put a
Yeah.
link to that in the
Yeah.
podcast notes.
And the chorus is, I don't want to be the strong one anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
strength in different ways, right? That it is that we're
yeah,
not
yeah,
really strong
yes,
for everybody else, but we're
yes,
actually stronger ourselves.
yes, yes, yeah.
And for me, I think learning to articulate my needs was really critical at this stage. Body image is something I've always struggled with, and just being able to articulate what I was feeling, how my husband and I were interacting on this. And then I also remember reading John Gottman. I know you reference Gottman often in your research, Sheila. But he says, 69% of conflict will never actually be resolved. And just kind of learning what to let go of, what's actually really important to be talking about here, and how maybe when we talk about emotions and getting them, where do we land, 1, 2, or 3 in that woman's, I love the way she defined that, is what's really important. Sometimes it is important, right? I've stuffed what I feel for a long time, but learning how to do that in a way that's actually restorative in the relationship.
Right.
So it doesn't destroy me or my husband in that. And just to really realize that we're on the same team. I think too often have been conflictive, like we're sitting across the table versus we're on the same side of the table, and it's actually the conflict that's on the other side of the table. We've got to together figure out. So, and again, I mentioned it earlier, the skills that we developed earlier in our marriage are coming, there's fruition in them now.
Yeah.
There's real fruit coming from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as we wrap up, I'll just say this. I think what happens when you're young is you're told all of these things are going to make you happy, right? Like your marriage is going to make you fulfilled. Your career is going to make you fulfilled. Having kids are going to make you fulfilled. Being part of a good church family is going to make you fulfilled. And you go through your 20s, 30s, and 40s, and you're working as hard as you can to get all of these things so that you can be fulfilled and happy. And you find ultimately that, wait a minute. It really comes down to where am I at? Because none of those things can do that for you. Right. And so it makes you question God, it makes you question yourself, but they're good questions. And I think in that questioning, you find your voice. And I think that's why menopausal women tend to be the change makers in the world, just because we're just sick of it. We're sick of everything.
We don't
and we're not
care.
yeah, we don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care anymore. And so we're going to make it change. Okay, let me read this because I think this is a great quote to end on. And then we'll say goodbye. She said, and I think this was a threads I read. I can't find it, so I can't quote her. I'm sorry, but I copied it out. The aging or aged woman is feared in a patriarchal society because wise and powerful women aren't needed in a patriarchy. If we can understand that societal rejection of aging is rooted in fear of the wise woman, we can begin to approach our own aging process with courage and pride.
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we are all the
Watch out,
wise women.
world.
Exactly. Okay. So I'm going to put links to everyone in the podcast notes, to people's social media. And Kalita, I'll put links to your song, The Strong One. Is it on YouTube? Like, can people watch it or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Mary, I will put links to your book, Rebecoming, which is just awesome. I'll put links to the podcast that you did with me too, but I just found you encapsulated so many different things in therapy and made it really, really easy to understand, like what is trauma, what is attachment, what is all of these great things that people always talk about, and really did some practical suggestions on how to grow in those areas. So I found it a really practical, educational book. So I'll put links to that. And Rosemary, do you want people to find you? I know you've got like a job that isn't as out there anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm not out. I'm not doing as much speaking like nationally or anything but we're actually developing a new marriage curriculum and a relational curriculum for college students and young marriages. And so, the chr.jbu.edu is the website. And we do a lot, also workplace relationships. But so my doctoral work was actually on women in leadership and some of what does gender bias look like? And that was really, really an interesting work. And so I have a very deep passion to help women find their voice. And I think if we can reframe, there, I said it again, if we can reframe even what menopause is, let's sprinkle it into when we do a presentation, and not just as a joke, I'm having a hot flash, but actually speak really positively about the role that we as older women have. Let's shift it a little bit. Even 1 degree can send us in a different direction.
Yeah. Because I think menopause is when you find your strength.
Yeah.
That's when you find your strength.
Yeah.
And you find your voice. And it's great. Yeah.
And a new confidence.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, my friends. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us. This is
Thanks,
awesome. It was
Sheila.
such a great conversation.
I hope your takeaway from all this is that, yes, menopause can be super confusing and difficult, but it's a good thing. It ends up being a good thing. And I know that I found my voice. So many people say that when menopause comes, they find their voice. And that's important. That's a great thing to have happen to you. So you don't need to be scared, but you do need to be aware. And if you're going through stuff that's really bad, talk to your doctor about it, because you shouldn't have to suffer. You really shouldn't. But as we are finding our voices, a lot of times we do start to, wonder about a lot of the things we've been taught in our church. And so again, I just want to reiterate how good the book, Better Ways to Read the Bible is by Zach Lambert, and encourage you to get it because it's so hopeful and it really can show you there is a different way of seeing Jesus. So thank you for joining us on the Bare Marriage Podcast, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.